Om Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavivriritam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Sri Madatatam Bhuvi Grinanti Bhurida Jana. Your nectar-like words and life and inspiring life stories are indeed eradicated offshoots of ignorance. These are eulogized by learned sages. These are auspicious to hear and propitious to inculcate in one's own life. Those who take these words to the world are indeed great benefactors of the world. Om Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavivriritam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Sri Madatatam Bhuvi Grinanti Bhurida Jana. Okay. I think it will be okay now. So today is Buddha Purnima. Buddha Purnima is thrice blessed day. As you know, on this day, Bhagavan Buddha was born, and on this day, he attained enlightenment, and on this day, he attained Mahaparinirvana. So it is an auspicious day, and it is always good to remember his life, short life, and also a little of his teachings. On this day, before we proceed to our study of Sri Ramakrishna and his divine play, as you know, he was born in Kapilavastu, that is now in Uttar Pradesh in India. That was his kingdom, his father's kingdom, but he was born in a garden when his mother Maya Devi was traveling, and that place is now in Nepal. His father's name was Shuddhadan. And when he was born, when his father called an astrologer, he predicted that there are two possibilities. One, he can become a great emperor, or he'll become a great monk. If he is exposed to worldly miseries, then most probably he'll leave this world. So as a precautionary step, his father started keeping Bhagavan Buddha, that time his in a very luxurious place, confined in a palace where all kinds of enjoyments were there. That time his name was Gautama. So Gautama is kept there in a luxurious place so that no suffering can enter there. As he grew old, he also again, he was married to Yashodhara. But one day he asked his charioteer to take him to the marketplace, and while going, he saw a dead body. She then asked, "What is this?" He said, the man has died, so people are carrying him. And then he was informed that this happens to all. All body will die one day. Then he was upset and he returned home. The next day he saw an old man, and he was suffering because of old age. And he also got to know that this is also inevitable for all living beings. And the third day he saw an ailing man. And again he came to know that when there is body, there must be suffering, and disease is natural in a body. So he was very upset, and he then started thinking. And the fourth day he saw a serene person, a monk. And then when he asked what is he, then he was informed that he's a monk. So he left home when his child was born. Child's name was Rahul, as we know. And then he started following various methods and various paths, but he was not happy. Then one day he took a vow, and he said, "Ihasane shushatu me shariram twagastu mansam parishasya jati." So he said, let this body fall here. All the bones and muscles may get destroyed. Until or unless I get enlightenment, I'll not get from this seat. So with this resolve, and this is very important for spiritual life, a resolve, right kind of resolve is very important. And then one has to follow this. And it happened that he attained enlightenment at that time. And Sujata, a lady of that place, offered him some payasam. So he also offered some payasam on this day. And then he started for Varanasi, where there is a place called Sarnath. He started preaching there. And ultimately he lived a long life. He used to stay in Shravasti, and later he passed away. It is called Mahaparinirvan. That happened in Kushinagar in Uttar Pradesh, near Gorakhpur. So he used to walk a long distance and used to teach people. So this is a short life. Now I'll read from Swami Vivekananda, a little the talk that Swamiji gave. Swami Vivekananda and the Buddha. Let me tell you in conclusion a few words about one man who actually carried this teaching of Karma Yoga into practice. That man is Buddha. He is the one man who ever carried this into perfect practice. All the prophets of the world, except Buddha, had external motives to move them to unselfish action. He is the ideal Karma Yogi, acting without motive. And the history of humanity shows him to have been the greatest man ever born. Beyond compare, the greatest combination of heart and brain, and ever existed, the greatest soul power that has ever born. manifested, ever been manifested. Buddhism is historically the most important religion, historically, not philosophically, because it was the most tremendous religious movement that the world ever saw, the most gigantic spiritual wave ever be burst upon human society. So what he gave in first sermon in Sarnath, addressing the five bhikshus, the Lord said, "Do not call the Tathagata by his name, nor address him friend, for he is Buddha." Buddha means enlightened. The Holy One. Buddha looks equally with a kind heart on all living beings, and they therefore call him Father. To disrespect a father is wrong, to despise him in sin. There are other teachings also. So he started Dharma Chakra Pravartana. That means started the wheel of Dharma. The Blessed One set the wheel of most excellent law a rolling at Sarnath, and he began to preach to the five bhikshus. He said, "The spokes of the wheel are the rules of pure conduct. Justice is the uniformity of their length. Wisdom is the tire. Modesty and thoughtfulness are the hub in which the immovable axle of truth is fixed." Sorry. He who recognizes the existence of suffering, its cause, its remedy, and its cessation, has fathomed the Four Noble Truths. He will walk in the right path. Right views will be the torch to light his way. Right aims will be his guide. Right words will be his dwelling place on the road. His gate will be straight, for it is right behavior. His refreshments will be the right way of earning his livelihood. Right efforts will be his steps. Right thoughts his breath, and peace will follow in his footprints. There are other teachings, so just to remind ourselves that this is a great day, thrice blessed day. On this day, we must meditate. We should meditate and meditate on Buddha, his path, as we consider him as one of the 10 incarnations of God. And Swamiji said in one place that it is because that some deterioration happened in Vedic practices, God has to incarnate as Buddha. Sri Ramakrishna also said that bodhi means awareness, enlightenment. So when the mind and intellect becomes pure and one attains that is called bodha swarupa. So we understand through our intellect. But because of dirt in our intellect, it is difficult to understand. Therefore, when mind is pure, then we can understand the right knowledge, wisdom. So this is as Sri Ramakrishna also accepted Buddha as incarnation of God. So this is for today. Now we'll go forward as we are studying the master's devotees. One of the devotee was Mahima Chakravarti. And he used to show his erudite scholarship. So, but all these are important. All disciples played some or other parts in the divine play of Sri Ramakrishna. Therefore, we are to learn from them, not to despise them or not to look down upon them. So we start from here. Is I think Paul is not there because they are they're going to the other house. So anyway, we'll read from Sri Ramakrishna and his divine play. Once while we were discussing methods of sadhana, Mahim described himself to us as an aspirant of the path of knowledge. Many years before the Calcutta devotees went to the master, Mahim had visited the master at Dakshineshwar. On some festival days, he put on an ochre cloth and rudraksha beads, held an ektara, a one-stringed musical instrument, in his hand, sat on his tiger skin under the Panchavati, and began his spiritual practices in great pomp. Before returning home, he would hang his tiger skin on a wall in a corner of the master's room at Dakshineshwar. The master saw right through him with only a cursory examination. One day, one of us asked the master whom that tiger skin belonged to, and he replied, Mahim Chakravarti left it there. Do you know why? So people will see it and ask me to whom it belongs. When I mention his name, they will think that Mahim Chakravarti must be a great aspirant. So this showy business, Buddha also had some disciple. They used to show. So one should shun some show business, this kind of show business, because that does not help an aspirant. Rather, that increases our ego. Sri Ramakrishna was against all insignia. That is why he did not put that mark. When he was practicing Vaishnavism, at that time he put it on. But after that was over, he stopped putting the mark, etc. He would say that it's like advertisement. It's like signboards that here is a great yogi. Though it is said that, signs or signia helps sadhaka, so that people are bit careful, say like that's why sannyasa garb is given. The worldly people or grihastha people will know that he is a sannyasi, and whatever need is there, that would be fulfilled. So it is a kind of help, but show business is not good. That is why we are given this sannyasa garb, so that it is to give that you are wearing this garb, therefore be careful. You should not degrade. So it is like a dog with a band. That means the people will know that this dog has a owner. Similarly, sannyasa garb is helpful, but it is not only for one day, rather it is a resolve one should take in front of fire after performing yajna. Viraja Homa, it is called Viraja Homa. So one should take there is a process. It takes about 10 years in Ramakrishna mission to prepare oneself for that great sacrifice. And then only Guru gives this. So, but it is, if somebody shows only for once, that will not help. Rather, that will increase the ego. That such and such person is a great devotee of God. Anyway, we go forward. Mahim's sadhana consisted of chanting pranava, Om, in unison with the sound of his ektara, reciting 1 or 2 verses from the Uttara Gita and other scriptures, and sometimes shouting loudly. He said that this was the traditional sadhana of the path of knowledge, and no other sadhana was needed. If one practiced this, this would awaken Kundalini, and one would see God. The image of the goddess Annapurna was installed in his house, and he performed Jagadhatri worship every year. One can infer from this that he was born into a Shakta family. It seems that towards the end of his life, he adopted the method of Shakti sadhana. Because when he traveled in his small buggy, one sometimes heard his loud cry from the carriage, Tara, thou art that. Tara, Tarini, thou art that. Mahim managed his household with income from his small estate. So these are the details of his life and how he lived. Mahim visited the master 2 or 3 times at Shampukur. After inquiring about the master's welfare, he would sit in a living room where he then performed his mantra sadhana with his ektara, and at intervals talked with those present about spiritual life. Attracted by his handsome and robust figure, clad in ochre cloth, and by his glamorous eloquence, many people would ask him spiritual questions at that time. The master sometimes told him, "You are a Pandit, give them," pointing to the visitors, some advice. The master knew that Mahim had a strong desire to gather disciples and spread his name as a preacher. So this is, Sri Ramakrishna was like this, as in Vaishnava philosophy it is said, that amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. Trinadapi sunichena. One should be lowly as a blade of grass. Trinadapi sunichena. Taroriva sahishruna. One should be forbearing like tree. When you cut a branch of a tree, tree does not object. Amanina manadena. And those who have no honor, give the honor. A Vaishnava should give honor. A devotee should give honor. And Kirtaniya Sadahari, and all the time he should sing the glory of God. So Sri Ramakrishna would give him honor. He was seeking some people honor him. So Sri Ramakrishna would give him that. So one day Mahim came to Shampukur and spoke on various topics, attempting to establish that the sadhana he followed was the best and easiest, and that all other sadhanas were inferior. Narendra could not bear to see the master's young disciples listening to him without protest. Narendra raised counter arguments and proved that Mahim's position was untenable. He asked, "What proof is there that a person will see God by uttering a mantra while accompanied by an ektara? As you are doing," Mahima replied, "Nada is Brahman." Nada means sound. Nada is logos. Logos, as we know that first, when we utter something, Nada is the vehicle on which we utter. So that is what he said. Nada is Brahman. Therefore, one should follow this. God is bound to reveal himself if the mantra is uttered simultaneously with the musical note. One need not practice anything else. Narendra said, "Has God drawn up us a written agreement with you? Will God appear stealthily before you like a snake charmed by a mantra and an herb? When you raise the pitch of your voice and utter hum hum, hum hum." So Narendranath criticized him. So he said, like, you cannot compel God. God works as at his sweet will. It is not that God is bound by any mantra or any practices. When it is like a child's nature, as Sri Ramakrishna would say. If you ask from a child, say, "No, I'll not give this because my father has given." And maybe a person did not ask, he will go running and offer that gift to him. Similarly, God is beyond all gunas. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna. That's why Sri Krishna also advised Arjuna to go beyond three gunas. So God has no agreement like that if you utter hum hum, and then he's pleased and he'll come running and give you darshan. So this way, unfortunately, because of Narendra's arguments, Mahim's preaching did not gain a following that day. And he quickly took his leave. So he could understand that here it will be difficult. So all these things happen in a scenario where incarnation is present. It is to show that these kinds of showy business is not for religious life or spiritual life. It is a one-pointed, devoted, sincere effort. That is important. As Bhagavan Buddha also took, "Yahasane sushyatu me shariram togastimansam pralayanchu jati." So the resolve should be like this, that I'll not get up from this seat until or unless I am enlightened. So we'll go forward. Narendra kept watch over the master's devotees so that they would pay due respect to genuine spiritual aspirants of other religious communities. He said, ordinary people love and respect only those spiritual aspirants of their own faith. They criticize those of other faiths. This attitude shows disrespect for the master's view. The master's view is as many faiths, so many paths. And therefore, to the master himself. So if someone is not respecting others' spiritual path, that means he's disrespecting Sri Ramakrishna's way of teaching. So Narendranath, looked after the devotees so that they respect others, but not fake one. We remember a related incident that occurred when the master was in Shambhapur. One is Mr. Prabhudayal Mishra. He was a Christian clergyman, so he came there. Prabhudayal Mishra, a Christian clergyman, came to see the master. We did not immediately recognize him as a Christian because he was wearing an ochre cloth. When he introduced himself to us, we asked him why he wore ochre cloth if he were a Christian. He replied, I was born in a Brahmin family. Must I give up the customs and practices of my forefathers because I have established faith in Christ and accepted him as my chosen deity? I believe in the yoga scriptures and practice yoga disciplines daily with Christ as my chosen deity. I don't believe in the caste system, but I do believe that it is injurious to the practice of yoga if one indiscriminately accepts food from anyone. So every day I eat vegetarian food that I have cooked for myself. Consequently, even though I am a Christian, I have experienced the results of yoga, such as seeing a light and so on. The devout yogis of India have been wearing ochre cloth from ancient times. So this cloth is dearer to me than any other. Narendra put questions to him one after another and learned about his personal life. When he had determined him to be a yogi and a holy man, Narendra showed great respect for him and asked us to do the same. Many of us took the dust off his feet, and together we had the master's prasad of sweets and fruits. He told us that he believed the master was Jesus Christ himself. Nowadays also some Christians, they wear Gerua cloth. If you go to Kerala, you can find this. But it is to entice Hindus. They'll show they are performing arati also with incense stick and light, waving light, etc. So this is just a show to attract Hindus so that they could be converted into Christianity. But the Prabhudayal Mishra was not like that. Mishra, as we know, that he was from Brahmin community, Brahmin Varna. So wherever we find genuineness, we should respect. And you see, in front of Sri Ramakrishna, all kinds of people would come. And this Prabhudayal Mishra also told that he considered Master as Jesus Christ himself. So we go forward, as Narendra was busily guiding the devotees along the right path, the Master's illness grew steadily worse. Dr. Sarkar was concerned when he discovered that the medicines that had been producing some good results were no longer working. He became convinced that the polluted air of Calcutta was harming the master. So he recommended that he be moved to a garden house outside the city. The first half of the month of Agrayana, mid-November to mid-December, passed. The devotees knew that the master would not change his dwelling during Pausha, mid-December or mid-January, because it was inauspicious. One thing, incarnations come to fulfill, not to destroy any practice. So this is age-old practice that a auspicious moment is chosen to change dwelling place. So Sri Ramakrishna observed that. Even he used to go and change the date of his departure. Once he came to Calcutta, it was not an auspicious time. So he returned to Dakshineshwar to come at other time. So this is to fulfill the practices or to support the practices that is already there. And at the same time, removing the incompleteness. They soon located and rented the garden house of Gopal Chandra Ghosh, his son-in-law of Rani Katyayani, at 80 rupees per month. This house is situated at the junction of the northern part of the Mati Lake in Kashipur and the eastern side of the main road leading Baranagar Bazaar. Surendra Mitra of Calcutta, a great devotee of the master, promised to pay the entire rent. Suresh Mitra or Surendranath. So Sri Ramakrishna would call him Suresh. After securing the house, the devotees fixed an auspicious date and made plans to move the master's belonging from the Shampupur house. Finally, the devotee took the master himself from the Shampupur house to the Kashipur garden house. Now this is a center. Both the places are now our centers, Shampupur and also Kashipur. Kashipur Uddan Bati, so Kashipur garden house. In the afternoon, one day before the end of Agrayana, that means 11th December 1885, the devotees were pleased to see that the master was delighted with the garden bedecked with flowers and fruit trees and with the fresh air and solitude. So this is another indication that when an incarnation comes, they are not confined in one place. It is said, Tirthim kurvanti tirthan. They sanctify the tirthas and they also make new tirtha. So here we find that Sri Ramakrishna stayed in some places and those places are now places of pilgrimage. So these are the incidents that happens, and later devotees go there, remember how the master lived there and interacted with devotees. So we go to the next chapter. It is chapter 13, section 1, the Kashipur garden house. The Kashipur garden house is situated on the main road of the main road that begins in North Calcutta. It's not far away from Holy Mother's house in Bagh Bazar. It's very close. And in between Bagh Bazar and Baranagar. So it is on the way. It's a beautiful place now. About 3 miles from the city. On both sides of the road, from north of the Bagh Bazar bridge to the Kashipur crossroads, a little south of the garden house, are the huts of poor laborers and small shops full of articles necessary for their daily lives. Among these dwellings, one can see some brick buildings, a few jute warehouses. That time lots of jute mills were there. So lots of warehouses also were housed in that area. The iron factory of Das Company, the farm of Relly Brothers it's Limited, and a couple of gardens and homes. There is a police station and a fire station at the northwest corner of the Kashipur Garden Road, crossroad. And not far to the west is the famous Sarvamangala temple. So this way, Swami Shardanandaji Maharaj giving a picture of that time Calcutta and how the main uh, points of that city was there. The huts and buildings bear witness to the different living conditions of the poor and the rich. As the Shialda railway station has been improved and extended, many tin-roofed warehouses have recently been built near that road, running the beauty of the area and existed just a few years before. Although this ancient road may not be pleasing to the eye, it has some value to historians. It is said that Nawab Sirajuddaulah, he was Nawab of Bengal, and he was defeated by East India Company in Plassey, the Battle of Plassey. So Nawab Siraj marched his army along this road to capture the British fort at Govindpur. That time Calcutta, so three villages were there: Govindpur, Sultanati, etc. So Govindpur, that time their fort was there. Now it is called William Fort, Fort William. And that the notorious traitor Mir Jafar had his palace on this road, a little over half a mile north of Bagh Bazaar. The section of the road from Bagh Bazaar to the Kashipur crossroads may not be scenic, but its extension up to Baranagar Bazaar is not unattractive. A bit north from the crossroads, one reaches the southern part of Mati Lake. And opposite that, on the eastern side of the road, is the beautiful house of Mahimacharan Chakrabarti, whom we knew. The railway company recently, that was 1919, purchased a large part of the garden surrounding that house and extended a branch line up the bank of the. These are the description of that time, so not very important. Proceeding a little farther north, one reaches the northern side of Mati Lake. On the left, opposite it, on the eastern side of the road, one can see the Kashipur Garden House with its high walls and iron gate. To the west of Mati Lake is a road on which there were some beautiful garden houses on the bank of the Ganges. Among these houses, Mati Shil's garden was the largest and most beautiful. It is now occupied by the Calcutta Electric Company, and its serenity and beauty are gone, replaced by the hubbub of business and the noise of a power generating station. To the north of Mati Shil's lake, Mati Shil's garden, the Bashak family had a dilapidated house on the bank of the Ganges. Now all these are gone. Now it is much beautiful, but very crowded nowadays. While we were staying with the master at the Kashipur Garden House, we often used to walk through Mati Shil's garden to bathe in the Ganga. Near the bathing ghat were some gulchi, the plumeria trees, from which we would pick flowers to present to the master, as he was fond of them. Sometimes we would walk through the pine trees to the Bashak's solitary and uninhabited garden and sit on the bank of the Ganges. A little north of this garden was Pramathanath Chaudhury's spacious bathing ghat, and north of that was beautiful Gopal temple of Rani Katyayani, wife of famous Lala Babu. So Lala Babu was a great renunciate. Once it happened that a girl told his mother, "Oh mother, the time is going when you fire the basana." That time they used to clean the cloth boiling with the ashes of banana leaves when it is dried. So that was the detergent that time. So it is called vasana. When you burn your vasana, now time is that was afternoon. Balaji Jai. The time is going when you will burn your vasana. So Lala Babu heard this and he thought, yes, it is afternoon of my life. When should I burn my vasanas, my desires? Though he was a millionaire that time, but he left everything and went to Varanasi and did various sadhanas. So that he was great. So his wife, the name of his wife was Rani Katyayani. So Kashipur Garden House was not large, but it was very beautiful. The house was situated on a quadrangular piece of land and 5 acres in size, which was a little longer from east to west than north to south, and was surrounded on all sides by high walls. A small building of 3 or 4 rooms adjacent to the middle of the northern boundary wall was used for cooking and storage. There was a 2-storied residence in front of that building and next to the garden path. This house had 2 rooms. Anyway, these are the details of the house, and you can see that. This is the house, and it is a beautiful house now. The garden house is also beautiful. So this, I'm skipping the description of the house. A ground level, a few stairs led to the hall entrance, because this is important, because Holy Mother used to live at the lower room and she used to carry the food for master through this staircase. A few similar stairs led to the hall entrances, which were located on the east and west side of the residence. The house was encircled by a brick garden path. In the southwest corner of the garden, joined to its western wall, was a small lean to the gatekeeper, and to the north of that was an iron gate. From this gate, a broad semicircular carriage path had been extended to the northwest to connect to the path. The master moved into the Kashipur Garden House on 11 December 1885 and spent the winter, spring, summer, and rainy seasons there. His disease grew steadily worse during those 8 months. Although his tall and robust body broke down and became as emaciated as skeleton, his self-controlled mind completely disregarded his pain and the severity of the disease. He engaged himself in completing the mission he had undertaken among his devotees, both individually and collectively, by teaching them what they needed to know. As we know that Ramakrishna mission is celebrating the 125 years of its existence. As we know, Swami Vivekananda returned to India in 1897, and 1st of May, he established Ramakrishna mission. So, in 2022, 1st of May, this celebration started, and the year-long celebration is completed on 30th. So, this is the place where Ramakrishna mission, that was Ramakrishna Mutt, that means monastic division, started. informally by Sri Ramakrishna. Because of his living there, young disciples started going, meeting the other disciples, and this way he laid the foundation of Ramakrishna Math. Sri Ramakrishna laid the foundation of Ramakrishna Math. So he engaged himself, completing the mission he had undertaken among the devotees. Okay, this is not willful. It is the Divine Mother. You know, the Great One, they don't do out of their egoistic nature. Rather, they trade on the path already set by the Divine. By the will of Divine, this was set. And Sri Ramakrishna traded on that path. So because they do not have sankalpa like we do, how we do? We resolve to do something. Sankalpa prabhavan kaman, taktva sarvan asheshatah. So what they do not have, okay, I'll do this, because that's the expression of ego. They totally depend on the Divine. And the way Divine guides such a soul or such an incarnation, they tread on that path in the same manner. It is not personal ambition like we generally do. We resolve for something and then we perform. But an incarnation moves as the Divine gives or takes him. So this way, it is not his personal ambition. In addition, we regularly witness the fulfillment of the prophecies about himself and he had made to the devotees at Dakshineshwar. So here, these prophecies also was made as the Divine Mother showed Sri Ramakrishna that many devotees will come and they will start this, the Sangha. So accordingly, he would say that, and he would call from the roof of the Kuti body, the residential place, that, oh my devotees, where are you? You come. So his call would go, an earnest call, and said devotees started coming. In other words, he would reveal himself publicly as a God-man. When many people know my divine glory and whisper about it, this case, that means my body, will cease to exist. It will fall to pieces according to the mother's will. So this is the attitude. Sri Ramakrishna always would say that as mother ordains, as it happens by the will of mother's will. At that time, during my illness, it will be determined who among the devotees belong to the inner circle and who to the outer circle. Because those who are dedicated would be inner circle, and those who would come and say, hello, sir, how are you? They will form outer circle. Here at Kashipur, we came to understand the truth of the Master's predictions about Narendra and the other devotees. He said to Narendra, the Divine Mother has brought you into the world by force to do her work. You must follow me. Where else would you go? These young boys are like the fledglings of the Homa bird. Homa bird is like Bioma bird, and that is that Homa bird. So it is the bird lays egg in the sky, and the egg starts falling, and when almost it reaches, it hatches also on the way, and when it reaches the ground, it thinks that, oh, I'll be destroyed. And then it goes back to its mother. So like that, fledglings of Homa bird. It lives high up in the sky, and there it lays its eggs. As soon as the eggs are laid, they begin to fall speedily towards the earth, and it appears as though they will be dashed to pieces. But this does not happen before hitting the ground. The fledglings break through their shells and emerge speedily, their wings and shooting up towards the mother bird high in the sky. Similarly, these boys will renounce the world before they are caught up in it and will move towards God. The master molded Narendra's life at Kashipur and assigned him responsibility for his devotees, particularly the young ones, and trained him in how to guide them. The activities performed by the master at the Kashipur Garden House were extremely significant indeed. So we'll stop here because the time is up. But this is very important place where Sri Ramakrishna concluded his divine Leela, his divine play, and how all the devotees gathered. They were bound by love. And before that, they used to call Baburam Babu, or Rakhal Babu, Naren Babu. But when they were in Kashipur, gradually they started addressing themselves with their first name. And this way, a cordial relationship grew among the devotees, especially the monastic disciples, but Grihastha devotees, householder devotees also were very close to Sri Ramakrishna. So we'll stop here. Today it was only more the description. But today is very great day. We remembered Bhagwan Buddha. So thank you very much. Now we are concluding. So gradually we'll see how this happens and develops, and how Ramakrishna mission, Ramakrishna Math is formed. We say our prayer. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamivavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tatsat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Thank you.
Pratam
Pranam
Maharaj.
Maharaj, thank you.
Namaste, Hari Om. Jai Ma.
Namaste.
Swamiji.
Jai Ma.
Namaste.